You are listening to Brand Me, Alex Merced, with me, Alex Merced. On this show, we'll be talking about the ins and outs of branding and how to empower yourself by defining yourself. We'll talk about the tools, the methods, the strategies, so that way you can take a brand to achieve your goals in your personal life, your professional life, in all of your life. If you need help implementing these ideas and using these tools to achieve your goals, contact Alex Merced to be your branding coach by heading over to mercedbranding.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brand Me Merced. Now, basically this week what I want to do is start going over the different projects I've had over the years and the mistakes I've made, the successes, the things I found that works, so that way you can kind of learn from that. So one of the earliest things I've ever did, sort of entrepreneurial branding projects I ever did, was Fashionably Numb music. So a little bit about the story of kind of how that happened was when I first got to college, one of the first things I got involved with was a local college radio station, WBGU FM 88.1 FM. And basically it was just your typical sort of hipstery indie rock college radio station. At the time I was sort of the post-hardcore, metalcore, emo scene kid. Really into all sorts of bands like Thrice, Thursday, Coheed and Cambria. Still really enjoy Coheed and Cambria. So I was really excited to get involved. And one of the things I really enjoyed getting involved with was promotions. So this was just sort of one helping produce audio promos for the radio. So that way different DJs could play little promos to help promote ticket giveaways, things like that. Arranging for ticket giveaways to help encourage people to listen to the show. And always one of the things that when you're part of a college organization you need is fundraising. So one of the first things I did is I said, how about we fundraise by doing like benefit concerts? Because I had a friend, or I have a friend who has cystic fibrosis, who I'm very close to. And one of the goals I always had when I went to college was to kind of throw a fundraiser for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. So I had this huge ambition of creating this big festival. So basically the first step was, hey, let's try to throw a concert as a fundraiser for the WBGU FM.1. And we threw several events and we raised some funds, and it was a good time. And this allowed me to kind of get to know many of the concert venues in the area and get to know the people who are in charge. Who do you contact them? Who do you contact for ticket giveaways? So the point is, the first lesson to learn is how you can leverage what you already do to build new doors. This allowed me to build contacts I didn't have before, and also allowed me to kind of learn the ins and outs of sort of promoting this particular space. And basically the standard fare back in those days, like this is back in 2004, 2005, 2006. So Facebook really was just kind of starting out. MySpace was really where it was at far as social media goes. And basically when it came to events, people for the most part, they looked at posters. So a lot of it was generating posters. And this is so basically I learned a lot about audio editing, creating those promos for WBGU FM, and then looking at how other people promoted concerts, I learned Photoshop so that way I could create my own sort of concert promotions photos. But eventually one of the things is I didn't have a car while I was in college, so I couldn't really drive out to see many of my favorite bands. So what I did is I decided to create my own sort of imprint concert promotions outfit, and it was called Fashionably Numb Music. And the reason why I did this is I wanted people to know that this was sort of I wanted to make sure that I was communicating to my audience. So I enjoyed a lot more rock kind of music. I enjoyed a lot more artistic kind of rock music. And I think a reference to Pink Floyd kind of communicates sort of the style of music you would expect at the typical show for Fashionably Numb Music. So if you're not familiar, Comfortably Numb is a song by Pink Floyd. And anyone who knows me also knows that I also have I do enjoy the hipster aesthetic, and so Fashionably Numb, one communicated sort of the genre of music, but also kind of communicated with the hipster ethic. And the logo was literally a picture of my face with a bow tie where I was wearing a beanie. So it was a very sort of hipstery silhouette type thing. So it was clear to kind of this wasn't a place to go see. My shows weren't going to be metal shows. My shows weren't going to be hip-hop shows. Well, I did do 1 or 2 hip-hop shows and 1 or 2 metal shows. It was generally more hipster, indie rock, prog rock type stuff. And so that was the reason I did that. Now, in hindsight, one of the things that would have been really useful is knowing everything I know about email marketing now and doing more about collecting the information of people who went to the shows. So I'd organize the shows, people would come, and people would recognize that people knew Fashionably Numb music. And over time, people know who I was, and they knew my association with Fashionably Numb music. And basically, bands would begin approaching me saying, hey, we'd like to pay Bowling Green, Ohio. Can you set that up? And then, because in the beginning, it was me setting up. So basically, when I was promotions director, I knew I had to go reach out to promotions director, to the A&R departments of different record labels to kind of get ticket giveaways, CD giveaways. I would have to contact booking agents to book concerts. So I already kind of had a Rolodex for that. And I had an idea of what kind of posters people liked, what people responded to, what kind of local bands they liked, because I used to go to a lot of shows myself. So I did my market research, even though I didn't know what I was doing at the time. Because again, at this point, I'm like a college freshman, college sophomore. I hadn't taken a lot of my marketing classes. I didn't have as a lot of the marketing experiences that I do now. But I was kind of feeling for it, in the sense that this was something I knew, this is something I understood, because I was a consumer. I was someone who was going to these concerts all the time. So I knew which bands I was more excited to see than others, which bands I expected higher turnouts than others, and which local bands were good and had their own followings and whatnot. And over time, as I did more shows, successfully and unsuccessfully, I was more aggressive about doing that research because I knew what the results would be, because I thought tangibly. So lesson number 2, lesson 1 was leverage sort of what you're already doing. 2, do your research. So again, as we talked about before, make sure you know your product, you know your audience, you know what they respond to, and always be crafting your message to kind of cater to them. And then also learn what you can along the way. You can always hire people off Fiverr or have a team that can do a lot of these things like graphic design, audio production, but if you're talking about a small budget, like again, I'm a college kid with a $0 budget. Okay, basically the only money I had was the money I had for food. So when I had an unsuccessful show, it came out of my food budget. Learning what you can do to create your assets to implement the best strategy is useful. And of course, if you do have a budget and you want to hire someone to take care of a lot of those things, those are the kind of services we offer at Merced Branding, which you can check out at mercedbranding.com. Now, so Fashionably Numb music went on for years. I think it was for 4 years. Basically, as long as I was in Bowling Green, Ohio, we were promoting concerts, and sometimes like 5 nights a week. So I was literally going to college during the day, doing the concerts during the night. We had a couple of really, really amazing shows. My 21st birthday, we threw an amazing show. But basically it did become sort of a brand, and I focus a lot on every concert, everything that we put out there is that the brand was visible. So that way people knew that this was a Fashionably Numb show, they knew what to expect, they knew how it worked, and that worked. And there were other brands out there, but again, things I would have done differently is when people came in, try to capture email so that way I can email them about concerts. Really, I did eventually create a Facebook group, but that was already really late in the game. And that would probably have been the number one thing, just a way to make sure I capture the repeats instead of literally every concert trying to rebuild that audience through postering, through reaching out to people and whatnot. It was good work. I built a lot of relationships that way, but it definitely made it a lot more work than it would have been using a lot of the techniques that I know now, having a much better online presence for the brand. So while it did exist online, it wasn't robust or as well maintained as I would have liked in hindsight. So hopefully you guys found that pretty interesting, and a little bit more about sort of my background and how I evolved as a marketer, as a brander, and some of the lessons I've learned along the way. So my name is Alex Merced. You're listening to Brand Me Merced, which you can subscribe to on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, And check out mercedbranding.com to learn more about the services that I provide if you need some branding coaching to help you in your specific project. Make sure you listen to all the back episodes. There's a lot of great advice on how to do a lot of these things for yourself, how to think through a lot of these things yourself. But again, when you need that extra step of help, when you need that person in your corner or to do some of these things for you, reach out to me over there at brandingmerced.com. I'm more than glad to help out. Thank you very much. Have a great day and enjoy. Thank you for listening to Brand Me, Alex Merced, on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to like Alex Merced on Facebook, on Twitter, and head over to mercedbranding.com to find us on social media and find other useful advice and resources in marketing and achieving your goals.